I'm Krista, I'm an addict.
I'm Gracie, and I'm not, and welcome back to another episode.
So, something that I feel like since I've been sober a little bit, I go to meetings and there'll be newcomers come in and I experienced this as well, as like, and we've touched a little bit of it, like about being in drug psychosis. Like, I'm seeing it more and more, like people not coming back from it. That is what is like one of the things that keeps me continuing to be sober, because the fact that I did come out of it, like I'm super grateful. But the reality of if I use one more time, I might not come back from it. Like that's a huge fear. And I don't know. We're gonna like share a story about, and you know, although like we're gonna bring humor to this, like the story that we're gonna share, like at the time, like in all seriousness, it was very real to me. All of those times that, like the things that I thought, the delusions were my reality, and that is what is terrifying. And thankfully, I did seek like medical attention and like get help from professionals during that time. But there's some people that don't, and I mean,
I think even like the biggest fear, it was very scary watching you go through that too, because I vividly remember times where I remember telling myself, like, if she makes it out alive from using drugs just in general, like if she lives through this, she'll never be the same person she was. And I mean, that scared me because, I mean, we've talked about like when you love an addict and like you go through the 5 stages of grieving them, but like I really thought like I was like almost grieving, like besides the point of just grieving like a drug addict, like I was grieving like losing like my best friend and like my biggest support person in my life, because there were so many things like the psychosis you were in was so real. And like I think we've told this story before about like the time when you were in my car and I start backing down the driveway, my backup camera was unplugged, and like little things like that. And I know those like sound silly and stuff, but those things were so real to you. Like there were so many things like that were so real. And she was like, you were just so paranoid about things that I was like, she will never come out of this. Like I even remember thinking like, if she gets sober, even like this will be her for the rest of my life. Like this is the new Krista I have to love.
I'm laughing because I'm not all the way back. Like, but there are, let me make it clear that there were things that were triggering.
Yeah.
That like now with this sober mind, like we look back and there were things happening in the relationship I was in the environment I was in, that were like
that added to the paranoia.
That just made it, and you know, that is why it is so important about who you're surrounding yourself around, because like you guys knew I was in a drug psychosis. You guys did not like instigate that, like those delusions, and at the time I was around people who were just making it worse and like feeding into it and like thought it was funny. And that's what, like, I have PTSD from that. Like,
well, that even like when you like got sober at the very beginning, I remember thinking the same exact thing, like, is she ever going to be herself? Like you had come out of the psychosis, but you had PTSD about so many, and even now you do sometimes, but like now you are more like reasonable to able to talk yourself down. But like at the beginning, there were still lots of things that were so triggering to you that they were so real to you, you know. And I remember thinking still like, oh my gosh, like, you know. And another thing I think I've talked about too is like through your addiction, I feel like I am very like level-headed with you, and I was always calm, but going through the psychosis with you was very hard on me. Like because there were so many times where I found myself angry, because it was just like, you just really want to say like, are you serious? Like, be for real. Like, you know, but those things were so real to you.
And a therapist told me this one time. She's like, you know, you've been through some stuff in life that have made you be hyper vigilant, but you like, and I think we've said this maybe in another podcast, but like you add a mixture of all these different drugs that I was doing, and it created psychosis. Like, yes, I was very aware of stuff, and I am now very aware of things that are happening, and like, but you sprinkle on a little, you know, meth, and the things that I was like, it is so important, especially now. That's why I don't watch news. I'm so careful about like shows I watch and stuff, because things that like that I feed into my mind can instill today, being almost like 2 years clean. Like, if I get on to like something about talking about like the Illuminati or like Big Brother type stuff, or I mean,
It's very triggering for you.
So, like, I can...
But I would say now at this point you more so have PTSD than it is like you're not in a psychosis anymore.
No.
Like back then, you know, it was definitely the psychosis. Like now you just are like scarred from those instances, and rightfully so. Like you said, there were so many things that I remember. And you can stop me if you don't want me to tell this, but like there were times when you were so like you'd be like, look at this on my phone, this that, you know. And I remember like looking at it. Like I remember one exact instance when you were like freaked out about your phone and you were like look, like my Amazon is in a whole different language, and it was, you know what I mean, like that's, and like I remember my mom looking at that stuff, and I remember like one time we had went over and saw you and whatever, and you were telling us all this stuff, and when we left we got in the car and we were like, we don't know what to do, you know, like that was a really hard time, like it just feeling stuck. But I remember saying like obviously like these things aren't happening is what we thought, but like it is, like the thing about like when you were like look at this, and it's like we're looking at it and you really are seeing that, like I'm seeing that in front of my face too, but it's like what, you know what I mean, like. But
and that was like a conflicting thing because like I said, I don't know how else to say it, or I was with someone who was telling me like that I wasn't seeing that, so like that's not true,
and you were seeing it,
and then you guys would come over and be like, we see it, and then I thought I was just losing my shit, like let me just.
And I do think some of it was like self-produced, like I do think 100%. You were so like hyper-fixated on your phone that you got into those settings and you changed and stuff, and that's why it was in a different language on Amazon. But no, but like seriously, I mean that stuff was there, and then like I think you would get so hyper-fixated on changing the settings and looking at like serial numbers and codes on your phone that, and things got changed that
was on myth. That's what it was.
It just like it was real, and then it was like then you freaked yourself out that it was real, you know.
Yeah. And how I find peace in it now is like I look back and I kept having like a lot of synchronicities, and I talk about this so much in like meetings and when I talk about healing, like at the time, because I was doing so many different drugs and I was having like all these delusions that I really believed they were my reality. But like I can look back and see that like I was going through like a whole lot of spiritual things that just didn't make sense at the time to me because I didn't understand them. You know, I can look back and, you know, I would think that I thought I was in like some kind of program or like government thing, because like certain songs that come on the radio that just like seemed like somebody was putting it on there. Like I remember these things that seemed so real at the time, and I still don't, like I can just like laugh it off. And
that was a huge thing for you too, was the music, like and I think that was something that I remember you very hyper fixating on too, was the music. And most of it I'd like I said, like, you know, you would say those things like look, this song came on, and it was true, you know, like especially, and like back then that would freak you out. Like now I think you look at it from a different angle than you did then. Like back then you thought somebody was watching you and like listening to you and putting these things on the TV, and now you look at it as like, you know, you're able to it's just on the TV, but it could be a sign, you know, like
Like, take it as a blessing and like a spiritual thing. I don't know. That's why I said I have to be very mindful of like what I read about on the, you know, because this whole like awakening thing is like very mainstream right now. Like people are talking about, you know, like being woke and like I feel like those are things that happened that did awaken me, but I don't even like talking about it because like to certain audiences, because like one, they'll be like, oh, she was just on drugs, and then on another thing it's like, oh, she's just trying to like jump on the bandwagon of, because you see that stuff all in the media. So I just can't even mess with none of it. Like I don't watch the news, I don't mess with none of that. I just like stay in the moment, I stay present. Like if I do hear music still is very, but it's comforting now, whereas used to before it made me paranoid because I thought somebody was watching me. So, like it's comforting now.
Your perspective on it in a good way.
And that literally was like I said, reverts back to that night where things just changed. My whole perception on life changed. Like, okay, at this point, I don't do anything interesting whatsoever. So if someone is watching me, like, you're real bored. And if it's just, you know, a higher being and it's trying to speak to me, like, I'm just embracing it. You know, like I see there'll be times where like hawks are huge in my life. Like I'll have like just like recently, like when we talked about the last podcast about going through some times during the holidays. Like I remember driving to the home like from my parents' house, and I was just kind of in a funk, and like I look up and there's a hawk flying, and like I can't even make that stuff up.
No.
Like you've seen it,
Yeah.
or I'm just like
I see them all the time
like
too.
bird whisper. Like it'll be like right in front of the car. Or, like I'll see certain animals. Like I just didn't pay attention to that stuff before. Now I do. So having gone through that, or you say gone through or went through, my mom gets on to me all the time about
having went through that. I think having gone through that.
I don't know.
I would say having went through that.
Well, Gwen Hatfield, whichever one it's supposed to be, that's the one we're gonna say.
How about we say both?
Went through some stuff. No,
Having gone through.
So some things happened, and so now I see it in other people. So when somebody, like, I'll talk to somebody who I know is like actively using, they'll be like, I'm not, this is what's going on, and they will be telling me about this stuff that's going on in their life. I don't dismiss it. Like, I don't make them feel like they're crazy, because it's so real. Mm-hmm. So if you have a family member that is in a psychosis and you know that's what it is, like, just guide them into a healthy way. Like, seek professional help, or just like a mentor. Like, that's why I said, like, there's so many, like, I know people that help me through some of those situations. Like, so like if you're watching this and you're experiencing some stuff like this, I don't think you're crazy, like, at all. Like, there were so many nights where I just felt alone and crazy, and like I wasn't, like, I just didn't understand some stuff. And my mom used to just be like, Krista, you gotta get sober, like, that's it, like, you gotta get clean. And it didn't go away immediately. It still hasn't gone away, but like I just have a different view on it now.
I was gonna say, I agree with you saying, like, just support them and be there for them, because I remember, like, you going through that, and like I can remember instances, like, in the same time, like, when my mom was sitting there, and, like, I can picture it very vividly in my head. Like, I remember you say, like, there were things on your phone that I saw, that we all saw, that were there, and there were some things that I think that weren't necessarily there that you had in your head, and I remember, like, an instance where you were, like, doing something, and me and my mom just sitting there silent, like, we didn't know what to say, and I remember you just breaking down crying, and you were so upset, because, like, and I can't speak for you, but, like, I'm assuming you were, like, beating yourself up, and I remember you just, like, were like, I'm not crazy, and, like, we didn't think you were crazy, like, it was just, like, we didn't even know what to say to you, you know what I mean? And I remember, like, I could see the sadness and, like, the fear and the you feeling crazy in your eyes, because we just didn't even know what to say.
Yeah, and that just I felt defeated.
Yeah.
Like, I remember those times, like, one specific thing, I remember y'all coming over, and I was, like, sitting on the couch, and
That's what I remember too.
Like, everything I read that was in the house that I was in, I had quotations on everything. Everything in quotations to me freaked me out. Like, and I don't just mean, like, freaked me out. Like, I thought it meant something else about, like, it would be like, the AT&T wireless, I'm like, they don't mean AT&T, they mean something else. Like, I just, like, was decoding everything. Like,
and that's when you were, like, I think through the psychosis, and I feel like that's really what a psychosis is hyperfixating on things, but, like, that's exactly, like, that's all you did is hyperfix, like, everything, like, I mean, not to be funny, but to be funny, like, literally, like, I'm looking at the fridge right now, so maybe think that, but you'd be like, the fridge is white, like, it's white, because, I mean, seriously, though, and, like, that, and, like, from the family's perspective, it is so hard to deal with, because it's kind of, like, there are times when it's, like, Krista, you're noticing these things because you, like,
you're thinking about them.
Yeah, and you're aware of it, like,
So, this is what I have had a therapist one time, she's like, so, when you get, you know, a new white SUV, let's say, and then you're driving and you notice that there's so many other ones, you know, but you have never noticed them. Yeah, you never noticed them before, but now it's there. Yeah, so. Yeah. But then, like, I went to jail, like, the time when I got clean this time, and I was in there, and there was another inmate, and she had just came back from wherever they send you, like, for mental health, and, she was talking about, like, the music and people talking to her, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like, but, like, I remember saying, like, I don't think you're crazy, like, I don't think you're crazy. Hers had lasted, like, a lot longer, and all these different girls had went through, like, similar things. When I went to, like, this dual diagnosis, this short-term program, a girl was, like, fixating on, like, license plates. We couldn't even go, like, we went to church one time, and she was like, license plate, like, I mean, all these different people had, like, were talking about different things. So another girl was like, I don't know what drugs y'all was on, but y'all all got the same thing going on. But it was almost comforting to me that, like,
for sure, yeah,
like, I'm not alone, like, but but like if all that stuff hadn't happened, like I feel like I wouldn't have. I don't know how to say this without still seeming really crazy, but I don't even care anymore. If they think I'm crazy, I don't care. But like, had those things not happen, like when I did go through like an awakening, like now I notice little things. I don't like think birds are filming me anymore, but like, right. Or you know, like
that's what I was saying about the music. Like before, when you would see these things, you know, you thought they were like out to get you or bad things, and now you look at them as a positive thing. And
yeah. However, I will touch on the fact that during that time when the reason why I like started hyperfixating on like someone watching me was because I actually found an SD card and a thing popped in a computer, and there I was. So it was game on after that. Yeah. But, and I'm not going to figure out any of that stuff. I don't care anymore. Yeah. Like, whatever was going on behind my back, if it wasn't anything, I don't care. Yeah. Like, the real win is just to continue on and, live healthy and, be happy. Like,
whatever it was hard during that time, but it's led you to where you are today.
I'm so grateful for all of it. Like,
because I do think, once again, like talking about how like we've talked about this in the last episode and just continue to say this, like how different you are this time. I think every single event, obviously, but like every one of those things that happened has helped you get to where you are today. Like I don't think you would be where, I don't think you would have made the, like if you would have, let's say none of that happened but you still went through drug court, I don't know that you would be sober, because those things wouldn't have happened to lead you to your spiritual awakening and just everything to lead you here.
Yeah. So I hate even talking about this stuff because sometimes it does make me feel like I'm like, I don't know. Here's what I've learned through it all though, is that a person I met, he had went through similar experiences, and he said it best. It's like, you got to let that past self die so you can be reborn. And that was like a real, like, that's true. That's kind of what I did. And like you go through like a grieving process of grieving, like what you thought your life was going to be, who you thought it was going to be with. There's been different stages of like searching for a deeper meaning, and I think that's what keeps me going and keeps me sober, is that like I have just this such like drive to like want for change. Yeah. Brief story, I was getting a lot of paperwork about life insurance policies, and I was hyperfixated on that, so I thought my parents were trying to kill me for life insurance money, because my life is so, and I ended up I'm sure that like there was a life insurance policy on me because I was a drug addict and the possibility of my death was real, so why wouldn't there be? So, but that's all it took. That's all she wrote. Like, everything that I saw, so there were some things that happened that I was convinced my parents were trying to kill me. They were not. They were trying to help me live. But I had ended up I think I had lost it enough that I was like, I need to get some help. So I make them take me to the ER. Saw somebody I knew. I was so embarrassed because my mom was like, she thinks we're trying to kill her. But that stuff was so real, man. That's
what I was gonna say. Like, we're joking, like kind of laughing it off now, but at the time, like those things were like, I know we've said that a million times this episode, but like those things were so real to you, like so real.
I remember feeling like terrified, like of everyone. Yeah. But really, like when I looked like deeper into it, like I didn't trust myself. So like everything I was like believing, I didn't trust myself. So I thought, anyway, it was a huge battle. So I ended up going on, at this point, I think I'm going crazy. So I'm like trying to end things, So I end up getting put on, I'm in ICU, on suicide watch. And I remember, I was in and out because I had, been on, a meth binge, so, I'm up there, I come to, I have a huge paper suit on and, grippy socks, and every time I touched the ground, it would be beep, 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 and I had somebody, sitting outside of my door, the whole time, and, the reality of all that is humbling, this is where I am, but I remember, the nurse coming in, and he had a conversation with me about meth on the brain and ADHD and all these different things that just and I wasn't really all there, but I remember him speaking on all this stuff, and he spoke about how he had been sober, and it just brought me, I'm this is Bill's story in the big book. Like, here's someone telling me their story. I'm literally in a hospital bed, just like the big book. Like, just like the, and I remember him saying, like, why are you struggling with suicide? And I remember saying, like, everything I'm just around is evil, and if this is the evil that's going to be in the world, I don't want to be a part of it. And that is, like, where I was in life. But what I have learned since then is that I chose to be around those people. So now I choose to be around people that don't make me think that the world is evil. You can think that with anything, like, there's good and evil everywhere. I guess it's you get to choose what you put your energy into. So anyway, I remember sitting there. I had, like, a lot of, like, epiphanies. Like I remember sitting there. I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life, and I chose it. I told them, don't y'all tell anybody where I'm at. I don't want nobody to know where I'm at. And I ended up going to, like, a crisis place, but, like, that was, like, a huge milestone in getting help.
I want to go back for a second too about, like, the whole, like, through your psychosis thing about you saying, like, you didn't trust anybody. Like, that was also very hard for me too, because you didn't trust me for a while. And I mean, I would say you trusted me more than most people at the time, but I remember times being, like, hurt because I, like, vividly remember you saying, like, Gracie, you know something. And, like, even, like, when you thought not necessarily then, since you thought your parents were going to kill you, but just times, like, there were many times you thought your parents were against you.
I was getting fed stuff that was, like, alienating me from is that a word? Alienating me?
Yeah, you were being,
And so I thought you guys were...
And there were many times, and I feel like especially through then, like, I definitely grew a closer relationship with your parents through that time. And so, and you knew I spent a lot of time out there with them and the kids and stuff. And so I remember you saying, like, Gracie, you know something, like, you have to know things, like, tell me what they're doing, tell me what their plan is, like, and I remember too, like, and sometimes even so, like, you told yourself, like, there was something that was happening and going on that you didn't know about, and you could tell yourself that it was healthy. Yeah. Like, you thought, like, I think, like, there for a while, you thought that they were, like, conspiring to get you doing these things and these things popping up so you would get healthy to lead, like, you did, like, you almost thought, and there's nothing wrong with that, but, like, you thought that they were leading you to sobriety in a way, and you just wanted to know. And I remember you telling me, like, Gracie, what are they doing? Like, what's their plan? And I remember telling you, like, I was like, Krista, I don't know anything. Like, they're not doing anything, And, like, those were times where I felt very, like, short-tempered. And because it was just, like, and also, too, it's almost draining, like, to be honest with you. Because it's, like, it's almost like, oh, my gosh, like, it's the same thing every day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so,
but in the same sense, you feeling like I was waking up every day and battling the same stuff. Like, a voice telling me, like, you can't do it. You're crazy. And other people. And, like, and then I'm trying to, like, figure myself out. So that was draining in itself. So
it was draining on both sides. Yeah, for sure. Like, and we could see that in you. And I think that was like the hard part, because it's almost like you were in this psychosis, and it's almost like you just wanted to shake you and be like, Krista, wake up. Like, wake up. Like, seriously, I know that sounds silly. And I know that sounds silly, but, like, that's literally how it was, because it's like, open your eyes, like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, And I mean, I don't know, but that was how it was.
And that I had found, like, some paperwork on, like, Casey's Law and, like, these different things at my parents' house. That's where that, like, came from. Yeah. I thought they were, like, had me in some kind of program, and, like...
And it was very hard, too, I think, too. It was hard to, like, know your parents weren't doing any of these things, and then go to you, and, like, you were so dead set on it. And I genuinely just, at those times, like, I felt so stuck and didn't know what to tell you. And I mean, I don't even, like, even to, like, give advice to other people, I think the best thing is to try to just be as honest with them as you can. But, like, in your head, there was nothing I could have said that would have made you feel like I was being honest. I mean, maybe if I would have, like, agreed to what you thought, but I don't, like, that wouldn't have been a healthy thing to say either. Like, if I would have said, yes, your parents are, I mean, they weren't, but, like, if I would have been like, yep, they're doing this, they're trying to do this, like, I think that would have made it even worse, too. I think
the only thing that would have given me clarification is if a bunch of FBI agents came out and said, you were part of MK Ultra. Literally. You are candidate. Clearly, that's... I mean, really. That's, yeah. I thought I was like, yeah.
But to wrap it up, that is such an important topic to talk about, and it was all very real and something that was hard for both of us to deal with. But anyways, thank you guys for listening, watching. We appreciate all your support.
Keep coming back.
Come back.